Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Vito Pellicano. He's the explorer of Wake the World at Tuthill Corporation. Vito, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm good.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I actually had Chad, one of your other team members, on the show to talk about the search for aliveness, and him and I had a good chat, and I thought, you know, what you guys are doing with the whole documentary and whatnot is actually really quite fascinating, considering you guys are a pretty large corporation and you're spending a ton of time, effort, money, and resources on something that may or may not be core to a lot of big business in America. But maybe before we get into all that stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Yeah, I grew up in I grew up in Westchester, Illinois, which is
Very
a
cool.
suburb outside of Chicago.
Sure.
Yeah, and later on we moved to Downers Grove. I went to Downers Grove North. I went to college out in the University of Montana.
Okay. What did you take in university and why?
I studied wildlife biology.
Okay. Interesting.
I love wildlife. I
Sure.
love the outdoors, all that stuff. And then after that, though, I got a gig out in LA for a little bit, working with some audio and forensics audio and stuff like that. And then after that, and then I moved back to Chicago, and I really loved web. You know, at that time, web design and development were getting bigger and bigger. So I started getting myself involved with that, teaching myself all that stuff. And I landed a job at Tuthill. I started out at Tuthill, gosh, it's 12 years now already.
Wow. Congrats, man. That's
a web
huge.
developer programmer. Yeah.
Okay. So walk me through your career at Tuthill up until what you're doing currently.
Okay, so as I said, I started out as a web developer programmer, working for Chad. I always worked for Chad. Oh,
interesting. Okay.
He's been my boss from the beginning. He's a great guy.
Sure.
He's a great guy.
Sure.
So I started out working there as the programmer, and then from there we moved into branding, Chad and I.
Okay. And
during that time, so I think I'm getting the date right, around 2004.
Okay.
Before I started, Tuthill created this thing called Conscious Company.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Conscious Company, the green, going green. It was more about well-being, personal well-being, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So with that, they kind of rebranded themselves. We were one of my first projects was working on redoing the logo.
Okay.
With J Tuthill and stuff like that. So we got into branding and did this vision, mission, values, brand statement that really showed that we're for people and stuff like that. And during that time, as it grew, we worked with this company called Bright House to help find our purpose. Chad met them. It was a great initiative from Chad and the leadership team to get this started.
Okay.
And we developed what's called our purpose now, which is to wake the world. And that was, I want to say, I can't think of the date. I can't think of the date offhand. But
it sounds like you guys were very early on in what you guys were doing with that, though.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, now you hear all about purpose and all that stuff, and we've been up to that for quite a while.
You guys were. It sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, about a decade early.
Oh yeah. And it's all because of the owner. I mean, J Tuthill he's an amazing man. I mean,
sure.
He Oh, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, dive into him and what exactly Tuthill is.
So Tuthill's a manufacturing company. They make like pumps, meters, blow.
Okay.
The best way, every time I talk to people about what does Tuthill make, when people get curious, the best
Sure.
thing I could do to describe it is, and you probably will see this after I tell you, if you look on the back of a pickup truck and you see a red pump called fill right,
Okay.
Tuthill makes that pump. It's a fuel transfer pump.
Very cool.
But that's like the only pump that's really outside to the world that people see. Most of our pumps live inside of other systems and blowers and all that stuff.
Okay.
It's really cool. Really cool stuff.
No, very cool. So I'm curious, though, how did the idea come to be to make a series around the search for aliveness? Because let's be honest here, most companies that are making or manufacturing companies would never fund or do something like the search for aliveness.
Yeah, I mean that's it's an amazing story upon itself. So let me go back to Jay for a minute.
Sure.
He back when he took over the reins of Tuthill from his father.
Okay.
I want to say around 92. He and I don't know what date he did this thing because I didn't start there yet. But
sure.
As the story goes, is he asked his employees to review him.
Okay.
And when he got the reviews,
that's pretty
got
ballsy.
Reviews, yeah. So he's like I said, he's an amazing man. He's
sure
full of heart. So he got this feedback, and he could tell the story so much better than me.
No, it's all good,
he got this feedback, and he instead of like just putting it aside or anything like that, he went out and met with a life coach, like a coach, a personal wellness developer. And
sure,
he loved so much what it did for him and the awarenesses that it created for him and bettering himself and to be more authentic, and all that stuff, that he opened up his heart and he wanted to share this with the Tuthill employees.
Wow.
Right?
That's huge.
So, it's huge. So he created this department, the whole Tuthill, Tom Carmazzi is the CEO. They all work together and created this department called Awaken You, which is called now. But there was back then it was called Radical Leadership that they worked with the life coach with. And they did these retreats and all this stuff to help build all the way from top bottom, right? It's not just the leaders at Tuthill. It's because in Jay's eye, everybody's a leader. It doesn't matter the hierarchy, right? Everybody's got something and some potential to share. So I'm telling you, this guy is amazing. And so he started having these retreats at coming out of his pocket, just building up employees and stuff like that. And later down the line, which now I said we created the Wake the World department that Chad and I are in with two new ladies. We're spreading our word outside the four walls. We want to explore more. Okay. Hence my title, right?
Sure.
Explore more of the outside, not just within our four walls. So as we created this new department, they asked for some projects that how could we do that? How could we get outside our four walls? And I love film. I did one documentary in the past.
Okay.
And I really wanted to do that. And when you watch commercials nowadays, I know I'm kind of going on a rant, but when you watch commercials nowadays, you see a lot of this purpose stuff, and it's all like, be your best self.
Yeah.
By this company. You know what I mean? And it always felt it was a good message, but it always felt not very authentic, right? I know that they're coming from a good place, but it just didn't feel that way. So I wanted to create a documentary that would get that upfront thing. That's what episode 1 is who we are and why we're doing it and all that stuff, but really dive into the people in the world, outside in the world. We're not trying to do this to sell pumps. We're actually trying to do this to better people's lives, and to mix our product with this felt icky. It just didn't feel right because it has nothing to do with our products. It has to do with each one of our hearts. And like I said, when you say that this is something that most manufacturing companies do, no one does.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
almost unheard. Well, no company does, to be fair.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's all, with the willingness of the Tuthill as a company and Tuthill as the person to allow us to get out there and do this, and invest in and believe in me and in the team to go and do this. So it's fantastic.
Sure. No, that's awesome, man. So walk me through. I just watched episode 1 actually right before we recorded, but for people that haven't heard of The Search for Aliveness, what exactly is the documentary about? And walk us through the stuff that people will experience while watching the different episodes of the documentary.
Okay, so high level,
Sure.
there's this universal truth, right? That
Okay.
Everybody, doesn't matter who you are, race, whatever, religion, we're all on this journey to live a most fulfilled life, right?
Sure.
And with aliveness, we're calling it aliveness because the whole spectrum of things that fill in this void or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
That people might feel.
Sure.
So the documentary is going out exploring different perspectives of different type of people all over. We went to Africa, we went to Mexico,
Very cool.
we're beating around the States. We're talking to thought leaders in the space of aliveness, like motivational experts.
Sure.
We just got done interviewing Tim Kelly, who wrote the book on True Purpose.
Very cool.
So we're trying to get all these different perspectives of, people in the space and just regular people, there's like me, you and I,
Sure.
So it's to gather all this stuff. And our goal is, as we talk with these people, is to kind of present these ingredients. We're calling it the recipe for aliveness, right?
Okay.
And then we're going to have all these ingredients inside there, which are different things that people could try to live a more fulfilled life. To be, even, just key golden nuggets out of all these interviews that we could say, hey, try this or do this. So just to kind of boost everybody up, get everybody motivated to live that true, authentic life.
No, very cool. So I'm curious though, because when I talk to Chad, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you guys are talking to people obviously from different parts of the world, but you're also talking to people from different economic backgrounds and status. So you're talking to people that probably a lot of people would consider less fortunate, and then people that are very fortunate, and everywhere in between. But is there common threads between the conversations that you guys have had with these guests? Because at the core level, we're all the same, right? And at least that's what I believe. And the only really distinguishing factor in a lot of cases is that weird number inside of bank account, right? Some is higher than others, obviously. Some has a weird, negative number in front of some people's bank account numbers because they're in debt, and others have astronomical amounts of money. But it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong again, that money and happiness don't really, and aliveness in your case, I guess, really tie together. But I'm curious to know if freedom and kind of money and all that stuff, what have you learned from actually doing this from the different people you've talked to? That's a long question.
Oh my gosh.
But
yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And to answer that, I'd love to answer it with a story of an interview we just got back from in Africa. All right. So hopefully this will shed some light on it.
Okay.
So as we were in Africa, we interviewed different people, some on Ubuntu and some on a teacher at a Hope School. It's a ministry, right? But we came across a story that I had to grab. I just had it just was calling me, and the guy that was out there helping us find these interview candidates, because we told him we were looking for somebody maybe that has disabilities or something like that, right?
Okay, sure.
And we came across a dual interview with, and the story is amazing, but I don't want to ruin it on this interview, so I'm going to kind of just sum it up.
Sure.
He found a girl. She's 15 now. She's blind. When she was born, she was thrown into a latrine by her mother.
What is that? Sorry.
And I know
people that don't know what that
is. A latrine is like where you go potty,
Okay.
Where you do your business.
Sure.
So when she was born, her mom threw her in a latrine and left her to die. as she was laying in that latrine. I know this is going to get a little graphic to the listeners, but it will shed some light on it.
Sure.
Maggots ate her eyes, and she became blind. She was left for dead. An older lady that came to use the restroom heard the baby in the latrine, called the fire department, all that stuff. So fast forward ahead, she's a happy little girl, and they have nothing. They're very, very poor. I mean, you think of a small bedroom, that's her whole house.
Wow.
Right? No kitchen, no anything like that. And you guys, the listeners will see a little bit of that on the video.
Sure.
But when you speak with her, it's about things that show up are like connections. She has a friend that has cerebral palsy. That's her best friend, and she has a great story on her own that worked herself up with the help of her mother and the community to get her educated and stuff like that. And she loves listening to that and listening to stories and stuff like that. But when you listen to this girl and you listen to her aliveness, her aliveness shows up as singing, as she loves telling stories. She is inspired to want to learn how to read and write and do it. And there's all this stuff that has nothing to do with money. There needs to be money for her in order to do that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But it's not down in her at all. And it's amazing girl, amazing interview. It was something that was doubtful up front because of the negative, negativity surrounding her story. But I'm so glad that we were able to capture it, and now we'll be able to share it with you guys. Yeah.
No.
Does that answer your question?
No, I think that's, I know it's crazy because, it sounds terrible to say, but obviously everybody in life goes through highs and low points. And you think about, I think about like my lowest point where I'm like, you think you're at rock bottom, and then you hear stories where people overcame something that almost makes your story sound kind of irrelevant, right? And
exactly.
Right? And you're just like, wow, like was what I was going through at the time really that bad, right? When you compare it to stories like that, right? So, but I'm curious to dive a little bit deeper into some of that stuff, because for me, what I love about doing the show is working on my own fear of public speaking, talking to people like yourself and others that just decided to go for it one day. So what have you learned, or what is doing the documentary made you reevaluate in your own personal life?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So I have similar, right? Confidence issues. I'm nervous right now. Even talking to you, all those kind of things, but really stretching yourself and taking those risks and getting out there. And I have this perfectionism, right? I mean, as I was editing episode 1 and throughout this whole production, like I told you, I made one film prior. It was a documentary, short, like 30 minutes prior to this. So my experience level in this is not high, right? But I have to put myself out there and take these risks and let go of some of these perfectionism, and I got great feedback from Jay Tuthill and Chad about letting go of that. There's a difference between perfection and excellence, right? And I just do the best I can, get it out there, and hope that message comes across clearly to people. And that's the biggest thing. So, through this whole thing, I mean, the amount of emotions that I went through just creating this and getting this thing together, and the confidence level within myself that I needed to have has taught me so much so far. I mean, and we're just getting started. So, I mean, the learnings I'm going to get out of this whole thing is going to be ridiculous. But with that, can I real quick just bounce back, because you said something that was really key when you said aliveness. Most people think of aliveness equals happiness, right?
Sure.
That's what you said?
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're exploring, is this whole realm of human emotions.
Okay.
And the team that came up with this I don't know if you want to call framework, methodology of aliveness or whatever.
Yeah.
They came up with 5 key characteristics that we're exploring to see if there's anything new that comes out or
Okay.
dive deeper in each of them.
Sure.
And let me just go through each one of them.
Of course, sure.
The 5 are purpose, right? What do you
Okay.
want in life? Or what do you want to do in life? Connection with people, connection with nature, energy. That could be what you eat, or that could be your motivation. That could be all sorts of things, right?
Yep.
What's the other one? Present engaged, right? Being present and engaged, being in the moment, like right now, not me surfing the web as I'm talking to you, just being real present in the moment. And then there's that thing I wanted to talk about, which is the full range of emotions. We're using this acronym called SASHAY.
Okay.
And it stands for sad, angry, scared, happy, excited, tender. But what it does is it's really encompassing all the emotions that we have, right?
Sure.
And happy is just one of them.
Yep.
And through this Awaken You team, that is exploring this stuff, they're saying, no, I mean, you could find aliveness grieving. You could find aliveness, in your sad moments, in your tender moments, and all sorts of different moments in your life.
Sure.
And what most people do is, that bad, icky feelings, people kind of numb those, with whatever way they can. Could be, just totally ignoring it. And, you ever hear that story? I work hard so I don't have to sit there and think, or people that even go to the right, or people that go even to the extreme of drugs or things like that to numb themselves from those emotions. But really living into those and diving deep into those emotions are very important to aliveness too.
No, I think that's great, man. But I'm curious because we've talked about this a handful of times throughout the show so far. Is like you and I clearly are doing these things to push ourselves out of our own personal comfort zones. But for people that are still struggling with that, you and I a few years ago, what made you actually decide to just start and go for it one day?
Courage. That's the one word that stands out for me.
Okay.
To finally get that courage to take that.
But how did you get that courage?
1.
How did you get that? What was the straw that broke the camel's back to just do it?
That is help with friends and family. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that we're going to explore throughout this documentary,
Sure.
how to build that courage, right?
Sure.
The connections you make in life, the people that you surround yourself with. You got to surround yourself with people that are going to help motivate you, not bring you down. All those kind of things to build that courage within you to take that first step. And to know that you're going to make mistakes along the way.
Sure.
You're going to learn from them, but you got to just, it's all these things that we always hear, knock the dust off, get back in the game. It's just all these things that we hear, but we got to really live into it. And for me, it was that courage, that step was taking that risk and being like,
Sure.
It's okay. If this documentary doesn't work out, if it only gets seen by 2 people,
Sure.
but if it affected 2 people's lives in a good, positive way, I still won.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
totally.
I don't have to,
Totally.
I don't have to worry about all that stuff, and I have the support, and that was the other thing, that support, right? Of the people. I have the support of this company to go after this.
Right.
If I didn't have that support and I was worried that my job was on the line because if I didn't do a good job or didn't get the numbers or get this, all those kind of things that get these worries and doubts in.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough to not have those worries. So,
interesting.
Courage, man. I mean, however you can find it, and hopefully through this documentary and things that I say will inspire people to just take that risk and get up there and just do it.
No, I 100% agree. And the crazy thing to me, before I actually took the leap to start working on improving myself and getting over my own fears around whatever it is, was I remember reading something, and it sounds really, really stupid to say it, is anybody that's ever done what they ever want to do in life decided to just go for it one day. Whatever that means.
Exactly.
And it sounds really stupid, but name the most famous person or the person you most idolize on the planet, for better or worse, just decided to go for it one day. And they don't care about the haters. And if anything, and all I can say is the haters should almost motivate you to prove them wrong, whatever that means. And you can't let because there's people that will tell you, that's stupid, or you'll never make money at that, or you can't be successful at that. But it's like your idea of success will be different than my idea of success. And success doesn't always necessarily mean financial. It might not. It might mean you want 1,000 people to see The Search for Aliveness. That could be success for you. You might want 10 people to see The Search for Aliveness, right? Or in your case, it might be like you mentioned a few minutes ago. If one person sees it and it changes their life, that's success in your eyes, right? That has nothing to do with, I needed to make $1 million, right? Like, it has nothing to do with that potentially, for whatever that means. So when people are chasing their dreams or passions, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, is they just need to figure out what their success is to them. Is that fair to say? Have you found that while doing the documentary?
Oh, yeah, I would totally agree with it. Like you said about even one person. I told this to Chad.
Okay.
As we were talking, I'm like, because we were having conversations about this whole thing, because it's
Sure.
so huge and so out of our realm that we get nervous with this sometimes. But I told him once, I said, if the documentary never gets seen,
Sure.
but the connections that we made along the way, creating this documentary, me talking to you, all these kind of things that happen, to me, that is a success.
Sure.
Right? Just getting out there and talking and just sparking little aliveness bubbles everywhere, as they would call them,
Yeah.
Just sparking all this stuff. To me, that's a success. I mean,
Sure.
So, and the other thing is if you, like you were saying about passion, right? If your passion is justified and it's good, you're never going to lose.
Yeah.
You never have to worry, because if it's from your heart and it's for the well-being of an individual or the community or the world, how are you going to lose? Haters, I don't even think about haters at all. I never even worry about people that won't like the show or don't like what it's about, because I don't even worry with that, because it's not for them,
Yeah.
But if imagine if a hater did watch it and it sparked a little bubble inside of them. Hey, oh well.
And maybe it gets
That's
them
awesome.
to reconsider their stance on it, right?
Right.
You never know. Or think about anything differently, really.
Really, yeah. I mean, it's so good, and it's such a good vibe project.
Sure.
That I can't even look at a negativity of it anymore. I had my worries up front and things like that, but now getting past it, how could I worry about that?
No, I think that's really good advice, man. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into the types of content that you guys are going to cover in the episodes. Do you know how many episodes there potentially will be? Is this going to be ongoing? And what types of topics do you guys talk about in the different episodes?
Yeah, so we're going to do episodes. We're going to try to pump them out each month.
Okay.
Starting with the end of this month, March 31st will be the second episode will be released. February is hard to get one out because I was traveling. I was in Africa and running around. So I'm also editing this. So a lot of time is involved in this. So, but we're going to try to get one out each month for the remainder of this year and see how it goes from there. Maybe even, if things go well, I could maybe even get a couple out. I don't know. It's best and hard as I can to get them out. I would like to do.
Sure.
For the topics, like you were saying, so we're highlighting each one of the interviewees. So episode 2 will just be about one person. Episode 2 is going to be Jim Peterick. He's the guy that co-wrote Eye of the Tiger. That song, Eye of the Tiger?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's going to be him and all the little golden nuggets and ingredients that come out of his talk with Chad. So that's going to be episode 2. Episode 3, I don't want to say that just yet, just in case something changes, but it'll be highlighting each one. And as we go through these interviews, none of them are duds, right? But some might be shorter or longer than others, depending on the content that we're able to pull from each one, right? Some might be a merger of a few interviews to just get some length or some context around it.
Yep.
We're really working flexible in this. When I first when I first created this idea and came up with the concept, I had these episodes all laid out. Like, I want to cover this, and this. But what we found along the way, because we're not doing this we're not doing this the typical right way of creating a documentary where you film the whole thing and come back in the dark room and start editing. We're doing it as we go. We have to be flexible, and we're finding that it's okay because we're still going to cover all the points that came out of that original concept. It's just going to show up differently. So, let go of looking good, right? Let go of that and just have the courage and do that. So that's where we're at.
No, that's interesting. And I think the other thing too is, and I would say this about the show, is depending on the person's age and how much experience they have in life and or an industry, obviously dictates how much content you can put in an episode, right? Because in your case, somebody that's maybe in their teenage years may or may not be able to fill a full episode, right? But somebody that's, been around maybe in their 40s or 50s obviously could probably fill a lot more content just because they have a lot more life experience and things to talk about. And I'm not saying one's better or worse than the other. It's just the reality of things. Have you found that?
We haven't had. We had a couple teenagers where we talked to, and some young kids. As we were in Mexico and Africa and stuff like that, we did some exercises around aliveness, and we found some core things that came out of it. A lot of the kids went to passion versus purpose, right? Passion is what you enjoy doing. Purpose is that really Tim say it better, but that really that community, working with another, helping somebody else out is what purpose usually comes out of.
They're not jaded yet, right?
No, I like soccer. I like fishing. I like they'll say things like that, and music, all sorts of things. But, there is key moments that even me as an adult learn from these children that we talk to, right? Just seeing how they interact with each other, things like that. So there's still quite a lot of learning in between it. And you're right, some might be shorter. Some of these episodes or some of these things might not even make it to an episode, but might be a vignette on our Facebook page, right? Gotcha. So what we're doing is our distribution, because we're not on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that. God, I wish maybe they'll see it and want to get season 2 out there.
Maybe one day.
But maybe one day. But I'm not even going to worry about that.
Sure.
But how we're distributing it is through Facebook and YouTube. And if people follow that, they'll be able to see all these little clips and videos and things along the way, our whole journey throughout this whole production.
Sure. No, I think that's great, man. It's interesting, right? Because you're right. You can get a really interesting perspective from people sometimes a lot younger than you, and just because it sounds bad, but like they're not jaded yet. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad sense, but
no, I get it.
They just see things. They don't see the weird red tape in an industry because they haven't worked in that industry. They're just like, well, that doesn't make sense because of this. And then you start having the conversation like, well, it's because of this, this, and this. But if you step back and you actually think about their comment, you're a lot of times you're very much like, yeah, you're right. And I can't believe I've never thought of it like that, right? Have you had those moments?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's great. Keep going.
Oh, so you were saying, have I seen that through the kids and the people that I've interviewed so far? That we've interviewed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's, let's see, what would be a good one? A good one. Well, it was with kids, like you said, a lot of it came back to passion.
Okay.
But when you see their passion behind it, the passion could lead to their purpose, right?
Sure. Interesting.
Whatever that might be. But seeing that innocence in the kids' eyes and just living in the moment, right? Whatever that might be. I mean, going back into Africa stood out to me quite a bit.
I can imagine.
Kids, they have close to nothing, and they don't have TV. They don't have all those distractions that we have nowadays, right?
Yep.
And, during their lunchtime, at school that we went to, they get a portion of lunch.
Okay.
But not only do they get this portion, they have to share it with another student that they might either not know, or they might, off the same plate with their hands.
Wow.
Right.
I didn't know that at
all.
all.
So look at that. Think of the building of a person right there. You're sharing a plate of food with somebody every day for lunch as a child. You know, you're person to person interaction. You don't get that in these schools where you could go sit at another table or be alone. You know, you have to be with someone and go through it. So, I mean, just learning visually, watching these kids without them even having to speak, we're getting a ton of lessons, lessons in life.
Yeah. Wow. That's actually got to be quite fascinating. Is there any other things that you've noticed that we take for granted in North America?
Oh, wow. All right. Let me think of all right. So creativity pops up, right? Oop, that was my laptop. I apologize.
No problem.
Creativity pops up.
Okay.
And so, you I don't know about you personally. I think you're very creative because of what you're up to. But there's a lot of people out there that might not call themselves creative because they look at creativity as art form, right?
Sure. Yep.
But if you look at a customer support representative,
yep,
right, someone that's answering phones or getting on there, that individual has to be creative. They have to create what they're going to say in a perfect way that's going to spark support back from the individual on the other line. They have to be really creative in their mind to get their message across. So everybody has creativity. And it's one thing that really popped out throughout this whole thing is this whole creation of what you want in life, and creation on your job, creation in everything. So when I was talking to you about those 5 points, and this is something that I'd love to go back to at some point with the AU team and see where creativity falls in, because as I see it, it falls into connection, it falls into purpose, it falls into present engaged. It touches all these different things. And I'm wondering, is that if you look at aliveness in the middle of the circle and then you got the 5 around it, does creativity then wrap around all those 5? You see what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
There's some real cool things that are popping out. And that's why we're out exploring this, to see what all these little things pop out as we go through this process.
Well, and the thing that I've always found fascinating about creativity, and you can tell me your thoughts on this, is I think everybody's creative. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be even good at something you enjoy, but if you enjoy something that relieves stress, or you can just kind of mellow out and you can just have a good time and forget about all of the good and bad in your life and just enjoy the moment for 30 minutes or an hour. And I'll give you the perfect example for me is, I haven't done it in a long time and I should, is just like oil painting on canvas. I'm a terrible painter. Like, I will not show anybody anything I've ever painted because it's awful, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter because, like, I enjoyed the 45 minutes that I got to just listen to music, paint whatever I wanted to paint, and let the canvas dry and tuck it in the corner of the basement. And
my God, it's so funny that you're bringing this up too. I got a goosebump moment.
No,
Last night,
keep going, man.
I don't own a TV, right?
Okay,
so
interesting.
Any digital stuff I stream now, right? I get it on my tablet or computer through YouTube, whatever. I've been getting into Bob Ross videos lately.
Sure, awesome. No, that's awesome, man. Right?
I love Bob Ross. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking in my head about those happy mistakes and those key things that he says throughout his episodes. Man, I wish I could talk to him. All those key things that he brings up, and there is no mistakes. And he talks about the imperfections and all these kind of things that you're talking and describing. You should have the courage to put your artwork out there. Just put it out there.
Yeah, you're right. I should, right? The other thing, too, that's interesting about that is my day job, I work on the design side at a startup. And it's interesting because some of the best stuff that I've ever come up with happened by you miss mouse click or you drag the wrong layer by accident. And you're like, oh, that's actually really cool. Let's go with that. And
right?
Like, yeah, and it's those like happy accidents that he talks about. Well, he used to talk about all the time, right? And
Right.
and like the fear of that, or that's actually really quite fascinating. It's interesting that that tied to something personally for you, but I think the thing is, and what I'm trying to get by having you and Chad on the show is people just need to go for whatever they've been trying to think about going for a period of time, right? And I'm just tired of people not going for it, because now that I've been going for it myself for the last few years, it feels so much better and relief that I'm doing it. I'm not doing it as great as I would like to do it, but that doesn't matter. And just accepting the fact that it's going to be 60%, 80% of what I want it to be is better than 0% of not going for it. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, and it sounds like you're following your purpose. You know, your purpose and passion tie together, and it sounds like you're following it, and that's super key. And look at both you and I. I'm not a millionaire.
Neither am I. Trust me.
If somebody hears my story,
sure,
they're gonna be like, "Oh, I can never do it. It's unattainable to me because I can't." Well, I'm telling you, I'm not nobody. I'm somebody. But you know what I mean? I'm just a regular person, just going for it, like you said, just doing it. You know, you like Nike plug right there. Just do it. Just get put it out there and see what happens. And if you love what you do, it won't matter to anybody else but you. You know.
Yeah.
And the people that it's going to matter to is the people that you want involved and want you surrounded by. You know.
100% agree, man. I think that's really great. But we're kind of coming to the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about Tuthill and the Search for Aliveness.
Okay, so we have our own dedicated webpage, which is the searchforaliveness.com, that they could go and watch the episodes and just see things. We got a cool little thing out there where you could create your own recipe, your own ingredient, right? So
cool.
If you click on recipe, you could type in "I feel alive when I blah blah blah," right? And you can share it on Facebook, all that stuff. It's a fun little
well,
thing.
And you guys are posting those on your website, right? It looks like
right. We post them on the website, and from time to time we'll post them on our social media sites.
Sure.
Instagram is our following on Instagram is short right now. We gotta work on that.
Sure.
But Facebook is doing really well, and that's where we're putting a majority of our content, including the episodes, will be released on there. So if you just go to Facebook and search for the Search for Aliveness,
sure,
you'll see our little pop-up right there. And then YouTube as well as the channel, the Search for Aliveness. So that's the three places that you can go and find our content.
Very cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time in your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
You too. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.